Civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a brave man who never backed down in his stand against racism. Let's learn more about the life of this courageous hero who inspired millions of people. Who was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta, Georgia in 1929. At that time, something terrible was happening in the United States. This terrible thing was called segregation. It meant that public places, stores, buses, and restaurants had separate spaces for black and white people. Even schools were segregated. It was the law. MLK experienced racial prejudice from the time he was very young, which inspired him to dedicate his life to achieving equality and justice for Americans of all colors. MLK studied at universities in Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts, where he read about Mahatma Gandhi, the man who had improved the lives of millions of Indians with peaceful methods of protest. In 1955, MLK became Dr. Martin Luther King when he earned his PhD on theology from Boston University. While attending school in Boston, MLK met a young Southern girl, Coretta Scott, who was attending the New England Conservatory of Music nearby. Coretta Scott would soon become the wife of Martin Luther King Jr. When he finished his studies, Dr. King moved to Alabama and became the pastor of a church in Montgomery. He encouraged his congregation to speak up about things that mattered. Raised in a family of preachers, he's considered one of the greatest speakers in U.S. history. In December 1955, a woman named Rosa Parks was arrested in Montgomery for refusing to give up her seat to a white man on a bus. Dr. King asked the people in his community not to take the bus again until the law was changed. The boycott lasted for more than a year until segregation on Montgomery's buses finally ended. After the bus boycott, Dr. King led a series of nonviolent protests. He and the other protesters were often attacked, and Dr. King was arrested 29 times. But he and his followers never fought back with force. He said, "Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." Dr. King helped to organize a protest march on Washington, D.C., known as the March on Washington. The march was held on August 28, 1963. The purpose of the march was to advocate for the civil and economic rights of Black Americans. There he delivered the "I Have a Dream" speech, which boosted public support for civil rights. In 1964, Dr. King was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his nonviolent resistance to racial prejudice in America. He donated the prize money, valued at $54,600, to the civil rights movement. In 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson shook hands with Dr. King at the signing of the landmark 1964 Civil Rights Act, which outlawed racial segregation in publicly owned facilities. Dr. King's words of hope, peace, and justice called a nation to change its laws and make them equal for everyone. Each year on the third Monday in January, America honors the birth, life, and dreams of Martin Luther King Jr. MLK Day is a national day of service, and all Americans are encouraged to volunteer and do activities to improve their communities. Now we will read a book that contains concrete actions that kids can take to make the world a better place. Be a King. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s Dream and You by Carole Boston Weatherford, illustrated by James E. Ransom. You can be a king. Marvel at creation. Keep the faith of your ancestors. You can be a king. Know that bigotry hurts. Remember how you felt when treated unfairly. You can be a king. Admit that you've done wrong. Just say, "I'm sorry," and mean it. You can be a king. Know that dividing walls should come down. You have glimpsed the other side. You can be a king. Break the chains of ignorance. Learn as much as you can. You can be a king. Stand for peace. Band together against bullies. You can be a king. Sing a song of freedom. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. You can be a king. Stamp out hatred. Put your foot down and walk tall. You can be a king. Answer your critics. Believe in your cause and state it plainly. You can be a king. Beat the drum for justice. March to your own conscience. You can be a king. Lift up the less fortunate. Be the king or queen of help. You can be a king. Set your sights on the mountaintop. Climb a little higher every day.
Of greatness, it means that everybody can be great, because everybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and your verb agree to serve. You don't have to know about Plato and Aristotle to serve. You don't have to know Einstein's theory of relativity to serve. You don't have to know the second theory of thermodynamics in physics to serve. You only need a heart full of grace. Yes, sir. Soul generated by love.
To learn more about Martin Luther King Jr., please check out some of these wonderful titles.
Sing about peace. Sing about peace. All around the world. All around the world. Sing about Martin. Sing about Martin. Sing about loving.
To find out more about how to get a library card, how to check out books, or our other wonderful programs, please go to our website, www.cvlga.org. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day.